Hi everyone, it's Mel with the Quilting Room with Mel, and I am back with another quick quilting tip for you. Today we are making the log cabin block. I have my lights and my darks already picked out, and I went with super bright, fun colors for my block. Traditionally, a log cabin block has a red or yellow center, and that's for the heart, and then a light side and a dark side. And that's a traditional block. And I love the log cabin pattern. If you look on my blog, I have a series of posts dedicated to the log cabin quilt. But what I don't like about that traditional setup is it's dated. I mean, that's the quilt my mom made. That's the quilt my grandma made. And I don't want to be that same quilter. I want to use the same patterns, but I want to make it look more modern. So what I am doing is simply using light and dark. All the same fabric. No graduation from light to dark on either side. No separate center. So I have all my strips cut. I cut everything in 1.5 inch strips. So let's get started. The first thing I do is I take one strip of each. Okay. And I'm going to sew them together, right sides together, and zip down. I am sewing with a 1/4 inch seam, not a scant, straight quarter. Make sure when I take a couple of stitches like that and then stop to line up my fabric, it's called an anchor stitch. And this is what we have. Okay. I'm going to press this open. Okay, I'm back and I had my strip set ironed open. I ironed to the dark side, and I'm going to line this up so that I can cut this back apart. Now, since my strips were 1.5 inches wide, I need to cut this segment into 1.5. Okay, I'm going to take these segments and head back to the sewing machine. Okay, we have all of our little twosies sewn together and cut back apart. And we did this by sewing the strips together, much easier than sewing a bunch of little 1.5 inch squares. Now we need to add our next log to our log cabin, and I'm going to do another dark. So I'm going to pick a dark strip up. So line up that first block. Okay, as I come to the end of that first one, I'm going to pick up another section and just stick it under the presser foot. I'm just going to keep adding the two. Okay, I have my next log sewn on. And now it's time to cut them apart. Okay, I have my piece here that has all my logs on it, and it's time to trim it apart. The first thing I'm going to do is line up right along the raw edge of this. And I'm going to make a cut. Okay. And I have my first little block. And I'm just going to slide my ruler down, and you'll see I have that little excess I'm going to trim that out. on to the next one. And I'm just going to keep trimming these apart, and then I will press them open. Okay, I'm back. I have my segments all pressed to the dark. Okay. And now I have a center and 2 logs. So since I have 2 dark logs, it's time to build our light side. And we'll go 2 logs on the light side. So I have my strip. I'm going to line it up and just zip right down just like the last time. I'm going to sew until this block on till I get to the end of it, add another one. If I want to raise my presser foot, I always make sure my needle is down before I do that. Okay, I have the same thing as I did the last time. I have my pairs sewn on, my segments sewn onto my strip. And I'm going to do the same thing as I did before. I'm going to cut in between each one, press it open, and then I'll meet you back at the sewing machine for the next step. Okay, I'm back. I have all my blocks cut apart and pressed, and I pressed to the inside or to the darker of the two choices, just so I don't have shadows behind. So now it's time for another light strip, and I always check because it's very easy now that we've got a rectangle to sew our next log on to the wrong side. So I always look for my center and I go light, dark, dark, light. I know my next light needs to be down here at the bottom. So I line my fabric up. So my seams are will be pointing towards the presser foot, so I'm going to have to make sure that I don't flip those while I'm sewing so I don't end up with twisted seams. Okay, I've got my next log sewn on, and now it's time to cut and press, and I'll meet you back at the sewing machine in just a minute. Okay, and I am back, and I have our segments. Again, I press that seam towards the dark. And I have a square again. Center, right there, dark, dark, light, light. It's time to go with a dark. I'm going to pull a dark strip. Make sure that I have it on the right side. Yep. Okay, next log is on, and it's time to cut and press. I'll meet you back here at the sewing machine in just a minute. Okay, I am back. And if we look at our block, we have light, dark, dark, light, light, dark, meaning we need a dark down here on the bottom, and I did press towards the dark. Okay, I have my next log sewn on, and it is time to cut and press again. And we're going to add one more round of light, and then we're going to call it for a day. Okay, I have my blocks cut, pressed to the dark. I double check, I go light, dark, dark, light, light, dark, dark. Time for light. Line everything up. And sew on my blocks. And there we go, we have our next log on. I'm going to cut, press, and I'll be right back here. Okay, I'm back. I have my blocks cut, pressed. Again, pressed to the inside on the light side, pressed out on the dark side. And it's time to add another light log on this side. So let's get to that.